We've got some new and very interesting rumors coming out for the MCU and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm telling you right now, if they really introduce this character in Madripoor on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I will lose my mind. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Do me a favor and smash that like button like the Hulk, and let's get right into this news. Oh, and real quick before we get into this Marvel news, I want to let you know later today at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on the Den of Nerds Live, which is our live streaming channel, we'll be doing another community chat. This one's all about what should DC do? Reboot, not reboot. Connect, not connect. How does DC fix the problems they've been having with their movies? That's what we're going to discuss tonight. Before we get into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier stuff, I did want to mention that it is true that Tom Holland has met with Sony and Marvel about the next Marvel MCU Spider-Man movie. He knows everything about that project and the upcoming Sony stuff, but unfortunately, it looks like he's also been coached about how to not spoil everything for us. So I guess spoiler watch 2020 for Spider-Man stuff when it comes to Tom Holland. Hopefully, even though he has been coached, he'll still revert back to his old habits and at least spoil a little bit of stuff for us. Come on, Tom, just a little bit of stuff wouldn't be so bad, huh? But now let's talk about some plot leaks coming out from 4chan. Now, yes, it's 4chan, so, take it with a huge, massive, big old grain of salt. But sometimes buzz that comes out from 4chan tends to be accurate, or at least partially accurate, and if it's timed correctly when we think other stuff is actually happening, like basically they are finishing up, probably editing some of these episodes, getting them together, at least in principle, to put digital work on, and so that lines up with certain people having seen some of the episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And so take this with a grain of salt, but if you're really worried about spoilers, perhaps you should check out from here, because there is the possibility that some of this stuff is true. Okay, so I'm going to read entirely from the 4chan post, and then we will break down the very cool aspects that are in here. Okay, it says here, a few things I know from the episode of the show I saw today. Sam isn't allowed to be Cap because of the events of Civil War, but trusts U.S. agent to take over the mantle. This is interesting. We've already talked about that. It says here, U.S. agent genuinely wants to do a good job and doesn't realize he's a part of a bigger plan. That's really cool, and that's new, but we'll speculate in a second. Sam and Bucky have to work with Zemo to track down a crime syndicate called the Alchemists. Zemo is essentially their hostage, but he has vital information. They go to Madripoor with him, and there they meet Batroc the Leaper and Omega Red. There were other characters that the camera lingered on that might have been Easter eggs, but I didn't recognize them. Felt like the Cantina scene, but in the MCU. Holy mother of pearl, of course we're going to speculate the crap out of that. Overall, the show feels a lot like Winter Soldier and the Mission Impossible movies. Agent 13 and Bucky seem to have a romance, very flirty vibe. Sam judges Bucky for it, and Bucky says Steve dated her like 70 years ago. Made me laugh. William Hurt is in the show, at least in this one episode. Seemed to reference events of Black Widow, not sure. Zemo escapes from them in a speedboat at the end of the episode. Okay, really crazy stuff. This would probably be one of the first episodes, if not the first episode of the series. Now, again, we talked about how Sam isn't going to be Cap because of the Accords. Definitely talked about that. It's interesting that Sam believes that U.S. Agent will properly take over the mantle, and it's interesting that U.S. Agent believes that he'll actually do a good job. At this point in the show, he's either not revealed yet to actually be a villain, or maybe he's not a villain at all. Maybe he actually thinks he's doing the right thing and he's being manipulated as well. Now, them working with Zemo would be very interesting. That would be a really cool twist. I wouldn't see that coming. And it's interesting that there's another group called the Alchemists, and Zemo has information. They're trying to hold him hostage, but he knows he needs to work with Sam and Bucky. Sounds pretty freaking cool to me. Now, of course, them going to Madripoor and meeting Batroc the Leaper and Omega Red, and the fact that this camera lingers on a bunch of different people in the Madripoor Princess Bar, that is amazing. A cantina scene out of Star Wars, but in the MCU, that is exactly what we wanted from the Princess Bar in Madripoor. That's what it's like in the comic books. Hopefully we get to see some of these awesome mutant-esque characters teased in this scene. Now, it would be very cool if Batroc is back in this show. I mean, obviously he had to run in with Cap. I love George St. Pierre. It would be great if they got him back for this episode, or even for maybe more in the show itself. But Omega Red, like, holy crap, Omega Red. Like, Feige's just gonna randomly put Omega Red at the table with Batroc, and they're all going to have some kind of a meeting, like a cantina scene type meeting out of the first Star Wars. Like, my mind is literally blown, guys. That would be incredible. And of course, if the camera is lingering on other people that could have been Easter eggs, but this guy didn't recognize, there's probably a handful of mutants or other MCU characters, possibly villains, that are in this shot. This is going to be fantastic. And as we've speculated about before, you don't go to Madripoor. Like, it would be really weird for them to go to Madripoor and there to not be any mutants. Now, we don't know if they're officially going to refer to them as mutants, but if Omega Red is just there in this show, if that is real, what that implies is that the mutants have been around. Many of us have been speculating about what is going to happen with the X-Men and the mutants in the MCU. Are they already around? Have they been hidden? Is the mutant phenomenon not well known from these other characters? Because, of course, because of the legal stuff, but we haven't heard mutants mentioned. We haven't heard anything mentioned about any Sentinel program, the mutant phenomenon, or anything. But if Omega Red is just there with his powers in a version of his costume, it implies that mutants have been around for a long time and just haven't been the focus of what is going on in the MCU. So believe it or not, if that is true, it actually implies way more about the MCU and how they will handle mutants than you might think. In fact, Omega Red actually comes from the Russian version of the Weapon X program. So this could possibly even tie into Black Widow, which the 4chan leak does mention as possibly being referenced later by William Hurt in the episode. And could it be possible that mutants and these super soldier programs and enhanced people, but also, of course, mutations, like it needs to be mutants, it actually needs to be mutations, could that be set up in the Black Widow movie? Wouldn't that be mind-blowing if quietly, under the radar, the Black Widow movie actually introduces the idea of mutants to the MCU? And to have that thread carried over into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, to go to Madripoor and see Omega Red, like, dude, this is too much. This is too much nerdy goodness. I can't handle it. Now, again, of course, we have to treat this as rumor for now, although it does track with what I would consider proper timing for certain episodes to be being viewed by different people in production. And it ties into a lot of other things we've been talking about with regards to the William Hurt character, the U.S. agent, how that character will be utilized, what the crux of the conflict is with Sam Wilson not being Captain America, and how that will all work together. And so I'm giving this a 70% chance of being correct, and I really hope it's correct because I want mutants. I want mutants real bad, and I would love for this to be the way that they were introduced. It implies that Charles is already out there. It implies that Magneto is already out there. Maybe some of the major events of X-Men stuff in the comics has not happened yet, but these characters do exist out there in the world already. That's fascinating to me, but I want to know what you think about this. Do you buy into this leak? Do you hope that it's true? Do you hope there's a different way they do mutants in the MCU? Whatever you're thinking about this, let me know in the comment section below. Now let's shout out Joseph Barrera. Indeed, the name of the doctor that helped create Captain America was Abraham Erskine. So shout out to you, Joseph. Now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what was the comic book in which Omega Red first appeared? That's right. Want to know what was the first appearance of Omega Red in Marvel Comics? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.